Alright, so as you saw from last episode, we are now titled, insured, registered, with a plate on it, and I have a driver's license. So we're going for our actual first drive somewhere other than my road. But, first things first, before we do that, I'm replacing the kickdown switch for no reason other than I just bought one because I had to buy neutral safety switch parts. And I'm gonna do that real quick. Alright, now that that is done, I can do this without a fear of this guy sticking and then getting my transmission stuck between gears whenever I put it in park, like the last time it did. And I can actually try and pass people without this gutless piece of shit getting me killed. So that's exciting to have now. Alright, one other thing I want to do right quick is the bushings down under here on the floor shifter, because I don't want this neutral safety switch thing to resurface sometime when I don't want it to. So I'm going to do that real quick, but I think I might accidentally have bought one of the wrong bushings, so I may only be able to do one right now, or may not be able to at all, but we're going to give it a shot before it starts raining. And one other thing I also want to do is see if I can take up some of this tape residue real quick. So I think I'm going to go grab some 409 or some Gooby Gone or something like that and just wipe that up. Also, these seals, pretty sure they don't work worth a shit, but floorboard was bone dry and it was raining like absolute motherfucker sideways, thunderstorm and everything. And so the drains are all working. The whole drain system is working flawlessly. But I still think water's just going in there. It's just getting out. So, I mean, I'll take it. All right, well, we're going to pause for today because we have two problems. One is a good problem, one's a bad problem. If you look down in here, the good problem is, if this thing will focus, is definitely don't have any bushings. Also, there's supposed to be a bushing right here on the spring, which further bushes. So, yeah. So it's not neutral safety switch, it's just bushings. However, the bad thing is I need two of each bushings. There's a little bushing on the outside over there and another one on the other side. And there's one over there and one over there. So, yeah. Well, actually, there's three problems. That's the good problem, is that it is in fact the bushings. So it's a relatively easy fix. The bad problem is I only have one of each, so I need to go buy another one of each. And the other problem is the 15mm lock nut, which you probably can't even see and is incredibly hard to get to, that guy right there, not coming off. So I can't just take the shifter knob and that plate off and do everything I need to do. So instead, I'm having to take or disassemble that fork down there so I can then get to the thing to replace the bushings with that intact, and then I'll dynamite it apart when I have it off. Yeah, since I can't do the bushing today, I'm not going to go that far, and we're just going to stick everything back together. I'm going to buy it parts, and we'll forget about that and focus on cleaning this guy up. Alright, well, with those little things out of the way, let's go pop the first drive cherry. I'm not going to do anything crazy for the moment. We're going to do an actual proper, like, road trip with this thing, but I don't want to do that today. I just need to run this thing up a temp, get the battery top back off, and I think we're actually going to drive out onto the highway and, you know, go drive like 5-10 miles and turn around, come back. And then we'll do a proper first drive here once we have all these other little fiddly bits worked out. And I promise it'll be this episode, unless I hit a deer on you know, this drive or something stupid like that. Also, I'm pretty certain that the odometer has stopped working because it has not moved in the last month, as I just realized after writing down the odometer mileage after replacing the kickdown switch, because I do that with all of my vehicle repairs. So that's great, because I only spent like $150 something on that thing for it to be the wrong type of odometer with a wrong, you know, speedometer on it. But yeah, that's exciting. At least the trip odometer is still working, so I can add it all in. But the actual proper odometer up there is it's not. It's just going back. It's been on 238, 267 since like the beginning of June, and it's middle of July now. So yeah. All right, we're about to do it. There it is. We're on the highway. We're actually driving someplace. It is a car, it works! Oh, let's get up to speed. Woo, bye! We have a car. Alright, well, we've just driven 2 roads up, and it looks like the trip odometer is not working either. So I'm gonna reset that, and see if that makes a difference or something, and try and pull out here without dying. Alright, well, it looks like resetting the trip odometer has done something, because it has now moved over to 68. So I think the 6 on the trip odometer is like jammed or something squirrely with it, because that was not letting it tick over. Or maybe it's the 9 on the trip odometer, because it's not going above 0.9 now. Anywho, it's a hot one out today. She's sitting at 90 degrees, which is more than I've seen it in a long while, but I've never pushed it this hard. Yeah, also there's a front end wobble, or some kind of wheel wobble going on. I'm really hoping that's the balance beads just not working correctly and not a bad bearing, but it's probably a bad bearing. So I think we might need to do this once more, put her up on jacks, and check for bearing play. Additionally, the whole front end's loose anyway, and we've got those bad drive shaft couplers. So yeah, a whole list of things, but that was a good first exploratory endeavor. When we actually go someplace with any distance, I'm going to make sure to have a whole set of tools and jacks and whatnot, and all that jazz. But for today, it seems like I can at least drive this thing to town and probably not die. I only went about, I think by the time I get back, I might have gone 8 miles, probably 10 miles maybe. So we can do that at least. So there's that. All right, so we're back. Just did a quick checkup. No brake calipers are locked up. That guy feels a skosh warm. Yeah, so does that one. Nothing weird. Plenty of coolant. The leak has stopped somehow. I guess chunks of rust have jammed themselves into all the holes that were leaking before. Oil is still spraying out of this, so we have blow by. So yeah, we'll just get over that, and probably need to replace this fuel filter, because I don't know if y'all can see that, but she is just jammed to the brim with little bits of black shit. Yeah, we'll do that in a later episode. I plan on replacing that hose, and that guy, because I think those hoses are disintegrating. Yeah. Alright, well, I have sprayed some bug and tar remover all over this and scrubbed the piss out of it, and it's still there. Good lord, I don't know what was on that tape, but it bonds like a motherfucker to bare Mercedes-benz paint for some reason. Anywho, I guess I need to try like an industrial degreaser or something, or I'll probably just go get 419 out of the kitchen, but anywho, it's good enough for now. Alright, now because the trip odometer is sticking, I figured I should probably just come up with a jerry-rigged workaround rather than actually fixing the problem, which is probably a slipping brass gear in the odometer. So what I have done is I've taken this piece of copper flashing, folded it over like so, and if you push down this button to reset the trip odometer and jam this guy in here like that, it holds the button all the way in, which makes the trip odometer continuously reset, which means that it won't interfere with this guy turning over. So that probably won't work, but we'll give it a shot. Alright, I think I've got a plan for what I want to try and do for the first trip with this thing someplace scenic, someplace I have to go twice this week. But before we do that, before we do a proper first trip, all that stuff, go through someplace scenic, show y'all the low country of South Carolina, I need to go to town and I need to fill that tank up with diesel, because I have never done that. And additionally, this will also kind of stress test the vehicle, see how well it does just driving, you know, what is it, 15 miles into town and 15 miles back. We'll see if anything blows up, because otherwise I'm going to be driving it like 50 miles one way out into the worst possible place I could drive a car if I think I'm going to break down and need to pull over. So let's at least put a little bit of a stress test on it. So yeah, I think without any further ado, I'm going to hop in this bad boy, drive into town, fill up with diesel, drive it back, and hopefully the wheels don't come off. Alright, first fill up. Fuel gauge is still figuring things out, but yeah, 8 gallons in her, and oh, now it says it's empty, so that's a good sign. Anyway, no problems other than needs an alignment, and the balancing beads aren't working too great, and the flex joint's probably shot, but hey, we're full now. Progress. Oh, and that didn't work at all. Alright, well, we're on the way back. I hope the audio isn't absolutely, totally buggered, but it probably is. She's still trying to figure out what the hell she wants to say. I keep wanting to go 63 in this thing. I figured out if I keep it under 55, I don't get any weird vibrations. I don't know how much of that is the balance beads, the alignment, the totally worn out steering system, or the, like, disintegrating flex joints. But if right now I'm doing about 56 and I got a little bit of vibration, if I slow her back on down to right here, I'm doing about 51 and pretty much all the vibration goes away. So if I just take back roads, it's fine. And we'll just continue to ignore it even though I have most of the parts to fix everything. I think it's mostly the steering system that's giving me trouble, because I can do a lot of that and it really doesn't equate to much movement on the actual car. So probably that has something to do with it, and the alignment that's off. And yeah, other than that, no problems whatsoever. Staying cool, brakes are not overheating, wheel bearings aren't doing anything funny. We got a car. I think we're good to drive 50 miles one way down about 30 miles of causeways and go see someplace cool next week. So I think we're gonna do that. I think we're gonna bust off the GoPro, dust it off, and see what we can do. Oh, I have just been running with my fucking left turn signal this entire time like a psychopath. I really gotta fix that light. Yeah, that's the one downside. I guess that gives me an excuse to pull this and fiddle with the odometer. If I do that, it'll probably pop over to 71. Yep, see, there it goes. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think there's a common problem where there's a brass gear on a brass shaft and the two stop mating and they just start spinning, and you just pull it out and booger up the shaft a little bit, stick it back in, and it all works. So I think I'll try that, and I think I'll figure out what the hell is wrong with that bulb when I do that, because I keep forgetting and just leaving my damn turn signal on. Oh, now she's doing vibration now. That's the balance beads right there, because if I just give it some gas, it kind of goes away. So yeah. Anyway, I need to do a proper balance on all these wheels, get some actual real tires, do the flex joints, and probably overhaul the steering system. So yeah, we'll do that eventually. And just like that, we made it back to my road, and it's only been 1 mile. It's funny how that works. Not really. Odometer's busted. But anywho, even though that guy doesn't work, he does actually work for shimming that thing up, so it wasn't a complete loss. Turns out that if you hold that open, there's like a clock spring in there or something, and it just doesn't wind up, and it doesn't have the oomph to tick that over, or at least not when the whole thing is apparently spinning on the shaft. So anywho, but she's staying cold, plenty of oil pieces. That guy's still figuring out whatever it wants to do. When I do this, yeah, it gets all wonky. And yeah, so far so good. I am just confident enough that I feel like I can drive this thing, 100-mile round trip and probably not get stuck. Maybe. Or at least a 75% chance I don't get stuck, which is good enough for me at least at this juncture. Well, I knew there was gonna have to be something. Looks like the oil cooler leaks. I don't think I've ever got it hot enough to ever actually need the oil cooler. So, yeah. I'm hoping it's just the hose and not the actual cooler, because I don't think I can find the cooler again. It looks to be the hose, or yeah. Well, shit. That's good to know, but at least it's not a very bad leak, at least while the engine's off. Where the hell is our dipstick? Yeah, we still got plenty of oil, so nothing I'm gonna worry about for the time being, but that's good to know. Shit. Well, it's been about 40 minutes. I fired the car up, backed it out of the way so I could cut grass, put it back, and that's how much has dripped out in the last 40 minutes. But interestingly, it was just those 2 drops that had all that had leaked out in the last like hour and a half since I started cutting, so it just started leaking after I got back. So I wonder, I'm wondering if just like the hose came loose on the bottom of the oil cooler. I'm hoping. I mean, a man can dream. So I think I'm just gonna honk on that with a wrench real quick. I'm hoping there's just like an O-ring or something that's in there that just like failed. But it seems like the oil cooler opened up, heated up, and then started flowing oil, and then as soon as the car was shut off, it started leaking. Because it has gotten substantially worse since I first noticed it. All I noticed was just those 2 drops. That's all that was there. And it has just continued to drip since. So, but it may or may not be mostly staunch now. So, it seems to just leak when it's on, kind of. On and not up to temp or something. I don't know. Don't fucking ask me. I'm just gonna wail on that with a wrench and see if I make the problem worse. Well, I'm under the car now, and from what I can tell from right there, it looks like it's the actual mating surface between the hose flange and this nut and the actual cooler. Like, it doesn't look like the cooler is the problem, thank God, because I think these are unobtainium. It appears to be that joint between the two, but what's interesting to me is that it's wet all the way up this hose. There's actually oil on this connector down here for the horn, which is odd, but there's not any oil anywhere else sprayed anywhere. It's just right on this guy and everything below it, and on the back of this horn for some fucking reason. I guess it got on these wires or something. Oh, it's also on my arm too, but we'll forget about that. I'm going to put a wrench on that and see if that moves at all. And I'm hoping it just like walked off or some shit. But I know that's not going to be the case. But I can at least dream. I'm wondering if it rusted out or something. And if it's just like spraying and then running down. And it's just looking like it's bad. Like the mating surface is bad. It could just be a rust pit on there that blew out. I don't know. We'll see. Probably just going to need a new hose. Well, predictably, that did jack all and it did not budge at all. So what I've done is just wipe away all the oil, and I'm going to sit here and wait and see if another drip forms. Because I would really like to see where the hell the oil's coming from. Alright, that's about the best I can do, but as you can see, there's a little shiny spot right there on top of the oil line. I'm sorry, I physically cannot point this flashlight at it and point the camera at it. But there's a little shiny spot right there on top of that hose. I just wiped that clean. So, I think it's a rust pinhole on top of the line on that swoop. And I'm hoping if it's just that, I can smother the absolute fuck out of that line with JB Weld, if I can physically find a way to get in there. And then just like wrap it with electrical tape. And just hold it all in there nice and good like. And hope for the best. But it appears to just be a pinhole on top of the line that just decided to go. So, definitely the hose, good thing, not the cooler. Don't know how much a hose costs, but might be unobtainium. I think I'm just going to try and patch it for the time being because why not? Alright, I found a way to show you. There she is. I just cleaned that off with a rag. It is a pinhole leak in the actual metal of the hose right there on top. So, thankfully, because it's on top, I think I can shmoo the fuck out of that with JB Weld and solve the problem. Except for the fact of that it's chronically covered in oil, so I don't know how I'm going to deal with that. But, we'll fucking see. Maybe I can get away with just black RTV. We'll see. I don't know how many oil pieces that's got to hold down. Well, I drug her over here, put her up on the ramps, so I could watch this drip finish and maybe put some JB Weld on it. And okay, yeah. Oh, God damn it. So she's definitely seeing some oil pieces, which is not bueno. Also looks like it was indeed leaking the entire time I was driving it. So I'm glad that like happened like fucking immediately and not 2 years ago. Yeah. Anywho, so looks like we're not driving this car anywhere anytime soon because we are just hemorrhaging fucking oil everywhere. Nice. Anywho, I'm going to hopefully see if I can order up another one of those, because that's got some PSI behind it, and I don't think JB Weld, I don't think I trust JB Weld to hold. But anywho, maybe I'll do something fancy. Maybe I'll take like a piece of metal, get a hose. Oh, there we go. That's an idea. JB Weld, or get the thing to finally dry out, put some JB Weld on top of it, put some Permatex down, then some JB Weld, then put a shim of metal on top of it, then a hose clamp. There we go, and send it. Yeah, that's a horrible idea. I don't know what I'm going to do. Hopefully, oil cooler lines are obtainable, and if they are, we'll get a new one. And if not, we're doing some shit. We're doing some fucking shit we probably shouldn't be doing. Nothing good ever happens in my garage after 8 p.m. Anywho, because we have power in the garage, and I also bought this Porter Cable LED light, and I now have a beer fridge to sustain my crack-fueled automotive endeavors, I've just said fuck it, and I've gone ahead and just used my patented technique of just smearing black schmoo everywhere, and then hose clamping the shit out of leaking hoses, and hoping that works. So what I have done is smeared an unholy amount of black schmoo all over the top of that hose after I dried it as best as I could. Then I took a piece of copper flashing, beat it roughly into the right shape of this swoopy hose, put that on top of it, smeared the top of that in an unholy amount of black schmoo, put a big fat wide hose clamp on there, clamped it down to the point where I got a little bit scared, then gave it another quarter turn, and then smeared the whole top of that with an unholy amount of black schmoo. And hopefully that'll hold in all the oil pieces. And if not, we'll just buy a new oil cooler line. So, anywho, doesn't cost me anything, and if I fuck up the hose, guess what? I already fucked up the hose. Nothing I could have done about it anyway. So, alright. We'll see if that explodes on the highway next time I drive it, or not. I don't know. We'll see. That fucking toad. Look at that fucking dude. Look at him. Alright, it's the next day. Been about a little over 12 hours, and it appears that the schmoo has done its thing, and it has schmooified all this shit up in here. The body of the car is leaking oil, though, as you can see, because good lord, it is just everywhere under here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this sucker off of ramps so that I can move it out of the way if I need to. But I also don't want to start the engine. I'm going to let this set for just as long as I physically can. I guess I'm going to let it... I'm going to take this car to work tomorrow. So I'm going to let this set overnight, give it, at least a full 24 hours for that stuff to cure. And I'll drive it to work and back, which is not much farther than what I drove yesterday. So I think I can do that. Plus the car will sit for 8 hours while I'm at work. So if I have a major issue, I can come out and fix it. I'm also going to throw 2 quarts of 10W40 in the trunk as well, so that I have that if I need it. But yeah, hopefully schmoo is done. But I want to drop this pig off of ramps and just let it sit for another, I don't know, hour or so, and then pull the dipstick and wipe it and get a reading on it and just see whether or not we lost any substantial amount of oil. Because I'm thinking that popped it couldn't have been, it had to have been right after, just before we got home. Because I just, or maybe it was when I was doing 70 something miles an hour on the highway. I don't know. I can't imagine that thing was spraying that much oil out of there, and it doesn't look like it changed at all in the dipstick. So, but anywho, we'll double check and verify. Well, she's off the ramps now, and these 2 jugs of Kestrel GTX 10W40, which I'm pretty sure is the zinc kind, says that they meet all the specifications required for gas, diesel, and turbocharged engines. So we're turbocharged diesel, so that should be good enough to top it off. I've just got basic Walmart 10W40 in there, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, so that'll be good. Well, even after all that spritzing of the undercarriage, under-oiling, rust prevention, it still says that we're right on the money as far as oil goes. So yeah, we're still slightly over full, and I mean, I definitely put half a quart too much in this thing to begin with. So yeah, we just brought us back. It was all intentional. That just brought us back down to the level we're supposed to have. Ooh, look at that blow by. I need to get some better hose clamps for these PCV doohickeys, because they are just belching all up on top of this engine. Not that I care. That's the only thing that kept this from being like that. So, I mean, it's got its perks. Alright, now that the oil doohickey has been probably dealt with, I'm going to shift back to the shifter and deal with these bushings and hopefully get all of that mess out of there without losing one of these specialty pins or fittings down into all of that hot garbage in there. Get the whole shifter unit out in one piece, get that knob off which is seized on there, or don't, and replace all 4 bushings, which I now have. That's the part numbers, in case you were interested. And get a tighter shifter back, or have it so tight that it doesn't work anymore. One of the two, we'll find out. Okay, well, new problem. I cannot get that pin out of the linkage rod, which I need to get the fork off to get the shifter off so that I can take this doohickey out of here. So, I'm just going to give up and we're going to pretend that I never did this. Well, at the very least, I was able to get these little tiny bushings onto that pin. So, we're going to slap everything back together and ignore that. Well, it doesn't have side-to-side play anymore, which is nice because it's not going to pop out of, park. But still got all that forward and backwards play, which is what caused that, neutral safety switch issue. So, still, if anything, it's now a little bit worse because I think I busted one of the other bushings a fair bit. But yeah, but it's a little bit more positive at the very least. So. Maybe one day we'll pull the fucking selector arm off of the transmission and snake this whole thing out of here just to get at that. But we're not doing that right now. Alright, it's been about 36 hours, and we only had one little tiny drop, which is very diffuse, and that was just water running down into there and wiping some of the diesel soot off of the frame, I hope. And as an additional stress test, I'm going to drive this pig to work and back. It's about a 30-40 mile round trip, and hopefully after I park in front of my office and when I get out in 8 hours, we'll have no diesel underneath it, or no oil dripping underneath the car. And if that's the case, drive it back and still no oil dripping under the thing tomorrow morning, then I'd say our patch job is good-ish for now. So at the very least, I would think that it would slow it down, if nothing else. The only thing is it's probably seeing 60 psi oil pressure, but it only opens after the car really heats up. So if I can actually keep the temperature under 80, I think it opens at 90 degrees. So if I can keep the temp way down there, won't actually be a problem, won't actually open up. But also, it's hot as fucking bejesus out, and it's going to be like that for months, so can't avoid it. But anywho, I'm going to haul this thing over to work, and hopefully everything is just peachy keen, and we can actually go somewhere tomorrow. Alright, well, that failed immediately. So, it's at least at the point where it's, drivable, it's just a drip. But we ain't going anywhere for a hot minute. I guess I'm going to order up oil cooler lines. Great. Well, I've ordered up a new hose from Summit of all places. It'll be here in, I don't know, wherever the hell it shows up. But we're going to stop paying attention to the Mercedes. Also, the meeting that I was going to use as an excuse to drive this place someplace scenic got rescheduled and put like 10 miles from my office instead of 100. So that's actually really convenient. So anyway, I'm going to take that as a sign of providence. One, the fact that I decided to stress test this thing before I drove 100 miles one way, that showed me that I had a critical issue with the engine, and then the fact the meeting got canceled tells me it's not our time. So yeah, more procrastination. This time, it's not my fault. Well, on the brighter side of things, it doesn't passively leak anymore. And we got a surprise 4 full inches of rain last night. Yet, not a drop from the sunroof. Pretty sure, yeah, this is still wet because it's still coming in from, up there, but none from the sunroof, which is much more than I can say for my Jeep. Oh, gotta love Dodges. And what in fucking Christ's name is this shit? It's just It's just on the side of my door suddenly. Fuck is that? That's some fucking ectoplasm right there. Yep, definitely ectoplasm. Okay, so new oil cooler line is in, and I'm just out here making sure that things aren't super duper fucked, and I can actually make this work before I dump all the oil and pull the filter and everything. And so far it looks like it's going to be feasible, but might have to go buy myself a 1/16 wrench and hack it apart. I don't know. Got this fitting loose, so, you know. That one didn't really fight. Neither did that top one. However, as soon as I got that top one to turn, I did absolutely snap both of these nipples off of this probably unobtainium single piece fucking vacuum booster line. So that's going to be fun. I guess I'm going to have to go source one of these. I don't think I can take this apart. It'd be nice if I could. Probably snap plastic off. If I could just get one of those and replace this and be done with it, that would be very nice. Or, yeah, because I'm not going to be able to glue anything onto that fucking shit. But that's great. Massive vacuum leaks. That means nothing in the vacuum system works, because I think that's like the main vacuum supply line for the entire car. So, fun. But anywho, not going to be, I can get a wrench onto the lower oil cooler line down there on the filter housing. I think I can get one at like an angle like that from in there, but I think my best bet is probably going to be, from what I saw online, removing that center bolt out of my motor mount, jacking this side of the motor up a little bit, taking that top line off, and then getting down in there and breaking that other one free. That guy down in there is also going to be a pain. I'm hoping that once I get this off, I can come in here, drain the radiator a little bit, take this hose off, bend her up out of the way, take the fan off, take the fan shroud off, and have enough arm room that I can get in there and manhandle it. Or hopefully, if I've got this thing up on ramps and on a stand, I can hopefully get at that from underneath, and maybe get at that from underneath. I also have to get these two mounting brackets off. That guy right there, that one shouldn't be a problem, as well as that one way down under yonder, which is probably going to be a pain in the ass. Do you mind not biting my leg there, you bastard? Shh. Anyway, so when I snap those off, I may or may not have punched the side of the car, because I'm just generally in a foul mood. But anywho, don't work on cars when you're pissed off. It just makes you more pissed off. Pro tip, which basically means I should probably never work on a car. But anywho, I digress. Will you please fucking quit? So anyway, that's a great bookend to my day. And of course, you can't just replace that check valve. And the whole line costs more than the oil cooler line. Great. Actually, never mind. It's out of stock and probably unobtainium. Man, you just gotta love scalpers. Thanks, eBay. Well, at the very least, Lerms has our back, and we can just buy some T-fittings. But I think I'm going to hack job repair this instead. Look at that fucking unit. Alright, so just grabbed the old nut rounder 9000, knocked that guy off with no trouble, and then just jammed a number 9 deck screw in here. Number 8 drywall probably work better, and just pulled those two nipples out of there. And my plan is I'm going to try and drill this out a little bit and try and sleeve in a piece of metal pipe, like really, really fine metal tubing. Or if that looks to be infeasible, I'm probably just going to drill this out part way and then just jam in like another piece of fitting and just fucking caulk the snot out of that. The thing is, I want it to be a tight fit, because I want this to have structural support, because otherwise every other time I lean on this doing this, trying to get this oil filter out of here, I'm just going to snap these off again. And I don't think I'm going to be able to repair this again. So my hope is that I can have a perfectly sized drill bit, and I can just like, and a perfectly sized piece of tubing, and I can just sleeve in a little piece of metal tubing. And shit, I could just, I think I might have a flare swage laying around somewhere. I live in the South. I don't do brake lines, but hopefully I can put a little flare on it and it should work just fine. I don't have to do all these fancy barbs. And if not, I at least want to be able to drill enough out of the inside of this that I can slide a tube in there and just glue the piss out of it and hope for the best. So that is what I'm going to attempt to do, rather than spend like $50-something on a whole brand new hose. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to go and just cut that guy off and just plumb in a check valve and then just, you know, a Y fitting and just call it a day. Shit, I might just jam these suckers full of epoxy and just drill 2 holes in here and just shove in 2 whatever these are, something close to a 3/16 fitting, and just caulk the snot out of that. I mean, that will work too, but I'd rather reuse these fittings if possible. Well, I got up a bunch of procedurally sized drill bits, drilled a bunch of holes, got everything lined up, and was on the last drill bit, and fuck that guy right up. So we're just going to fill both of these motherfuckers right full with caulk. And something that I'm noticing that is probably going to be an issue is these have an orifice, like an itty bitty tiny orifice. And yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do about that because these are just wide fucking open. But I guess maybe I can just try to jam something down on in there and glue it, but that's not gonna do shit. Don't know. Might look up, see if I can find some vacuum tubes with orify in them, because those are tiny, tiny orifices. And I don't know, we'll fucking see, but it's not looking good. Alright, so in order to avoid using the last ditch approach, what I have done is taken one of these like 16th to like 5/32 step upper ones, and I've drilled out this one. I just drilled it in about yay much, whatever size that is, 1/8, and then jammed that guy down in there, fit perfectly. And then I took one of these 3/16 through fittings, and I just chucked it up in the drill, grabbed some sandpaper, and just filed it down so that it fit all snug like in the remaining crater I had over there. And then I have taken this Loctite plastic adhesive, which bonds to many different types of plastic that nothing else will bond to. This was only like $3, and I picked this up for a different vacuum-related repair that I never actually got a chance to use. So I'm hoping it works now. You just basically take this activator, wipe it onto both sides of the plastic, take a little bit of glue, wipe it onto one, push it in, hold it for 30 seconds, let it go, and just don't touch it for 24 hours. So we're going to see how well that works. I think this will work like a charm. These guys are a little oversized, so they may not fit into the actual vacuum fittings I have, and if so, I'll just make a step down with some new vacuum tubing, not a big deal. And hopefully that guy holds on. After this cures, I'm just going to cover the schnot out of the tips of both of these in T8000, which won't provide a structural bond, but it will seal it off to vacuum at the very least. And we can just hope for the best. Alright, it's the morning now, and I have used my patented technique of just slaughter the snot out of it with T8000 wonder glue, and we'll see if that does anything. This is mostly just for a gas seal, as well as to provide some sort of elastic like support. I don't expect this to actually really bond all that great, although the stuff does actually bond well to plastic. It's just sort of there as a cushion, you know, kind of some added support. It's like putting caulk around it, more or less, except a little bit stronger. And yeah, I'm probably going to need to trim that guy down a little bit, but we'll see. That guy's probably way too goddamn big, but I'm hoping I can just stick a little bit of tube on there and just have like a little down step, and that should be fine. And yeah, I'll have to do a suck test here eventually. I don't think I got anything in there, but I'm hoping that works. This, I really am sure this top one will work. I'll just have to make a step down for it. This bottom one I'm not so sure about. I may need to epoxy it. I don't really have any epoxy that will bond all that well to nylon and whatnot, but we'll give it a shot at the very least. I don't think JB Well will work. I'll try some 5-minute epoxy. Honestly, I don't know. May need to just drill that out and jam something in there with an orifice in it. I don't know. So yeah, I'll just let that cure for however week, 7 weeks, 3 months, whenever the hell I get to doing this oil line, because I have a feeling it's not going to be fun. Well, that's mostly cured, and I have no worries about that one, and that one's actually not that bad at all. Hopefully, I don't break it again. I absolutely will, but hopefully I don't. Okie dokie, well that's reinstalled, and it appears they will work as is. Now I'm just going to unplug both of these, and just to remove strain, and we'll just let this cure in the car. But at the very least, fuck, I just broke it. Why did I do that? I hate myself. Alright, we're going for broke this time. I took the original barb, and I have glued that back on, but there is still a big old gap underneath it. So we're going to slather the piss out of it after that cures. I'm going to give it a full 24 hours. I'm going to do this on, today's Wednesday, I'll do this on Friday morning. We're going to take this 5-minute epoxy and just slather the piss out of everything below that barb right there, and hopefully that'll be the end of it. And if not, we'll cut that off, drill that center back out. Well, it'll all just break off, or the whole thing will break in half. And we'll go back to this, and we'll slather that with the epoxy. If I wouldn't have snapped that, if I would have noticed that I had these prior, I could have done that there, and this all would have been Gucci, and we wouldn't have a problem. So that's my recommendation to y'all, if y'all are trying to do this. All right. Well, I let that set up for 24... fucking cunt. God damn it. It's every time I film. All right. Once more, same as before. This time, we're not going to fucking touch anything until I have let that cure for 24 hours. Put that shit on it, let that cure for 24 hours, and then put that shit on top of that and let that cure for 24 hours. If it still breaks then I'm just going to fucking epoxy that shut and just fucking drill an orifice tube in there and call it a damn day. Alright, been 24 hours. Busted out the seal on that, and it has been thoroughly slathered in epoxy, and we're again going to wait 24 hours. Okie dokie, well here's the shmoo after about 20-something hours, and we're just going to shmoo it again with some of this. Let it sit for another 24 hours, or probably a month, until I get to this damn oil cooler line, and hopefully this should seal it and provide a little bit more rigidity, flexibility, structural, I don't know, it just makes me feel better. I got plenty of this stuff. Alright, well, it's been our 24 hours and the shmoo has set, and I have just stuck some vacuum condoms on there, just so that if I need to run the thing between now and then, it doesn't just continually suck vacuum and sand and shit into the vacuum pump, and the brake booster will work, so keep bugs out at least. Alright, well, I just drove the car halfway to the end of the road back, and the oil leak now with my patch it's slow enough that if I needed to drive somewhere, I could, but it's fast enough that I really don't want to. Since I parked it, that's all it has dripped, so it is just a pressure thing. I haven't checked the oil because it's still hot and it's still percolating. Also, with the vacuum lines not hooked up, of course, vacuum shutup does not work, so I have to pop the hood to turn the car off. But anywho, I know it sounds like I'm procrastinating, but I've got way too much shit going on at work that I just don't need the stress right now, because I have to drain the entire oil pan, pull the filter, get covered in diesel oil, try and remove that stripped engine mount bolt that I'm pretty certain I cross-threaded, so it'll be fucked when I pull it out, and it'll be fucked up again, and then I'll have to replace a motor mount, and I really don't want to have to do that one, because that was the really hard one to get in, and all that other complicating bullshit to try and get in there to pull some strip screws and other shit, and I really don't want to break any more vacuum lines and stuff, and I don't need it right now. I was right there, and I was so happy, and we're just fucking DQ'd for the minute. Oh, it sucks ass. So anyway, I'm focusing on other stuff, like the boats, right now, that are not so stressful, because I'm also procrastinating on the boats. I mean, I'm not procrastinating. Also, it's like in the upper to mid 90s every day right now, so I'm just not very enthusiastic to crawl out in the beating sun and get covered in diesel oil and my own sweat while I scream and yell and get dirt and sand in my eyes. So yeah, just like get off my back, me, because I don't know why I'm complaining to y'all, because I don't read comments, so I have no feedback from y'all. I'm just bitching at myself, okay? I gotta vent somewhere, alright? I live in the woods by myself. I'm a hermit. Well, $25 and 2 weeks later, we have a very cheap 27mm wrench, and it is just barely short enough. It looks out, and we have we done it. We've got the oil cooler line to start turning free. So we can in fact get that off. Might even be able to do it without taking out the motor mount, but probably not. Actually, no, I have to take the motor out. Oh God, I didn't even realize that. I have to pull the motor mount off just to be able to fish that thing out, I think. That's annoying. Now the only thing left to do is try and see if I can get her down there and get that to move, and hope for the best. Alright, boys and girls, my plan for tomorrow was going to be changing that oil filler or oil cooler line, doing a full oil change, filter change, jacking up one side of the engine, getting in there and pulling that line out. But my worst fear is being recognized. I can't get that damn lower line off the oil cooler. It is rusted to the fitting. There's a steel fitting inside of the aluminum oil cooler that attaches to the line, and I can't disconnect that son of a bitch. And I'm definitely not spraying that with heat because it's covered in engine oil. That would be a very bad idea. Plus, it's just surrounded by plastic and wires, so that's not happening. I do need to just spray it with some PB Blaster and just let it marinate overnight and hope something happens, but I've already employed 2 forbidden techniques. One, I put the jack underneath the wrench and jacked it all as far up as it would go till it bottomed out on the frame, and it just started rounding off the flare nut. And then I've been beating it with that rubber mallet. I'm not up to the 3-pound hammer yet, and not doing anything other than rounding off the flare fitting, so we may be hosed. I'm going to marinate it in some PB Blaster, but we may have to get back to the redneck engineering. Okie dokie. Well, I can't do it today because I've got relatives coming over short notice, so I'm not going to be able to get, armpit deep in diesel oil today. Maybe able to get it tomorrow if things go my way, but I'm going to try and wait on that. My current plan is I'm going to get down in here, clean up as much oil off of there as I can. I'm going to try and get there's a wire here that goes up here to the auxiliary electric fan for the AC, and I've unplugged that to get it out of my way, but it's attached via a clipped-in zip tie over there, and I can't figure out how to get the clip off, so I gotta look that up. But I want to pop that off and just get it out of the way so I got arm room. But I'm gonna come back in here and just get my wire brush on there and clean up those threads as best as I can, just to remove as much dirt, grime, and rust off that I can. And I'm gonna come in with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and just spray the thing clean, and then spray some on a rag and just try and wipe it up, clean it up a bit, let it dry. And then I think I'm going to take some Gorilla Tape, and I'm going to build a little cofferdam around the base of the flare nut. Basically, just create a little taco like that around the back of the flare nut and the bottom of the engine oil cooler. So it leaves a little channel in the bottom, like that, where I can just spray some PB Blaster, fill up the little thing, and have it get all the way around and marinate on the threads in between the nipple on the oil cooler and the flare nut on the line. And I'm hoping that'll hold stuff for a couple hours, or if I'm lucky, maybe even 24 hours, and I can just come by twice a day and just fill it back up and just let this sit for, I'm probably not going to be able to get to it for another 2 weeks, but just let it go. Just keep filling it up and just let it work its magic, and just hope and pray, good Lord, for the best. So that's what I'm going to try and do real quick, and then I'm going to go cut grass for 6 hours. Well, with a break for lunch in between to hang out with family. But in the meantime, just to make sure I'm not going to run into any more problems, I wanted to make sure I got these 2 clamps down in yonder that hold the lines to the engine. I wanted to make sure that I could actually get those off, and that one came off no problem. Plenty of access, you just reach right in here and do it. That one physically can't get a wrench on it, but thankfully they left just enough clearance between the motor mount that if you've got a thin wall 3/8 extension or a 1/4 inch extension, and you got 2 of them, and you make it 24 inches long, you can put a 10 mil on there, you can break that free. So that one took a little bit more torque, but it came free. So both of those will come out, so no need to worry about that. It looks like I have plenty of clearance underneath the motor mount where it attaches to the cross member, that I can, if I can get both ends of this line off, I don't need to remove the upper line. and I can just snake it out here. And in order to get the oil cooler off, I know I can do that because I had to take the radiator out before, and it's just attached to the radiator with this bolt right here, which is the through bolt that goes to this welded one. And if you remember, down yonder, wherever it is, down in there, I snapped the nut off of the side of that bracket. So that's just a through bolt with a random nut on it, and hopefully that has not decided to rust itself to death. But I can pop the oil cooler out of here, no issue. It's just a matter of having to drain all the oil and then getting oil everywhere. But I just take those 2 bolts off, and then I can, well, I'll have to detach both lines then, but I can just take that line off. I mean, that guy did not fight at all. I mean, that was it. So, you know, that line will come off no problem. I got both of those to break free, as you saw, and broke that in the process. So it's all I need to do is just get that one off. And I'm now at the point that if it won't come off, I'm going to snake this whole thing out with the engine cooler, because I'm going to have to drain the whole damn thing anyway. I'll just have to make sure to break that line free and then try and wriggle it as best as I can to pour all of the oil out, or at least have a catch pan ready, because when I pull this oil cooler up, everything in that oil cooler up to that height on the filter housing is just going to dump out, and that's probably a half quart of oil. So want to be able to catch that. So yeah, if that's the case, we'll just snake out that whole guy out of there, and I'm hoping I can just huck that guy in the vise more or less. And another thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to take this 22 millimeter, aka 7/8, and it is way too fucking fat. That's like 5/16. I'm going to take it over here to the bench grinder, and I'm going to grind it down to somewhere in between 1/4 and 3/16 of an inch. Just pretty much take it down to the shaft like that. Just get rid of this wide spot. You don't want to do that with your wrenches if you don't have to, because the more meat you have up here, the less likely you are to round something. But kind of have to, because I have to be able to get it in between here and here. And at the moment, it is just too wide that it does not fit in between them. So, So I need to take about 1/8 of an inch off. A little bit more would be better because of the clearance. And that's so that I don't snap this clean off, because I don't know if those are just torqued in there and with like Loctite, or if they're actually like welded to it, but I really don't want to test those. So yeah, that's my current plan, is those guys are free. I'm gonna build a little cofferdam around there, fill that up with PB Blaster after I clean it off, let that marinate for a couple weeks. Then we'll try it again, and hopefully it comes off, and if not, we're gonna pull the oil cooler out. And today I'm going to grind that guy down so that I have a way to fit in there. Additionally, I'm going to grind this side down on 24, because I've heard that when you torque these guys back onto here, if you're not careful, you can crack the aluminum filter housing right there. If you just go in there and you gorilla on that, that's just a steel nipple threaded into an aluminum housing. If you put too much torque on there, it'll lock these two up together, and then the weak point is the aluminum filter housing, and that'll turn in there, and because it's bottomed out, it'll just force its way in, and it'll just split that aluminum like a banana peel, which is no bueno, because then you have to replace the entire oil filter housing and pull the engine. So I want to be able to get that guy to fit on there as well, so that I can get in there and hold those in place whenever I torque those. And I'm not putting crazy amounts of torque on them. They were only on there about 20 foot-pounds, maybe 25 foot-pounds, so that's all I'm putting back on to them. Just, you know, everything you can get up to your shoulder pretty much without putting your ass into it. So yeah, that's the current plan. So I'm going to get to cleaning, taping, and grinding, and spraying and waiting. Alright, well that took way more effort than it should have, but about as much as I expected. But the coffer has been dammed, so we're gonna just belch a whole bunch of this shit up in there, which I'm gonna do from the bottom just because I know I'm gonna smile. Fuck it, yeah, let's just go for it. Fucking wind. Just to marinate it. And that should probably all drain out instantly, but we'll hope it can percolate for just a bit. Let's give her just another squirt. Fill her up with the good stuff. I'm actually going to put a container underneath there because she ain't free, and I'd like to reuse that again if I can. Alright, well, that appears to be doing basically jack shit, so that was a waste of time. But, just slight improvement? Well, after a little more than an hour of grinding, the majority of that being on a 150 grit wheel and an 80 grit belt that had worn down to about 160, and then 5 minutes of me realizing, oh yeah, didn't I buy some 36 grit metal grinding belts? And then about 5 more minutes of grinding to do about the same amount of work, we have narrowed this guy down to about 9/16 on either side. Ooh, that's still warm. And 22 fits beautifully down in here. It's a little aggressive on the grip down in there on account of I didn't finish it. And it does fit on the 24 millimeter in there, but it's a pain in the ass to get it back out. But it'll work. So great, we have this now. Tape is falling apart as anticipated, so we'll just keep marinating that every hour or so, and just hope that it does something. I also marinated all of these, not that I need it because they came out, but just to be safe, and I'll spray a little bit more down in on those mounting bolts too, just for good luck. While we wait on that to marinate, one thing that I want to do, which I haven't done on account of not having a garage, but now I do, so no reason to wait, is clean out the trunk, because it's just full of spare parts and other crap that does not need to be in the trunk. And I got a place to put it now, so might as well take everything except for the essentials. We leave the emergency stuff, 2 quarts oil, chocks, funnels, air compressor, all that other good stuff. But, take out like all this transmission fluid and other shit that I'm just not going to need. We'll leave the almost empty 1 quart thing in there, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to do that, and so my battery doesn't die again, I'm going to employ my patented make the light not fucking stay on o-meter. Alright, well that fought me, but that's on there. Should have just taken the light off. Also, I think this thing is supposed to be able to have like a screw cap on it or something that you can just do on there to shut the light off. That'd be really nice. I should probably, find an acorn nut that'll work for that and like zip tie, glue a piece of string on it hanging off of there. But anyway, I digress. We're gonna pull these carpets out, this box, go through it, take everything out of there that I need to, and just generally wait. Alright, well that's much better. I can definitely get a body in there. Maybe even 2 small bodies now. So we're a right proper 80s car, because it's not an 80s car if you can't fit at least 1 corpse in the trunk. So that's good to go. Alright, well it's midday the next day, and I'm at a crossroads. I can either do this now, get it all done and out of my way, and not have to think about it for anymore, hopefully, or I'm going to have to wait like potentially 2 weeks to a month before I'm going to have time again to be able to work on this. So I'm going to make an honest effort one more time to bust that guy free. And if it doesn't come free, then we're parking this bad boy back over there, reinstituting the cofferdam, and just letting it marinate for weeks on end before we try this again. However, if it comes off, then I'm going to make an honest effort to drain the oil out of this thing and swap those lines and get it done today. So without any further ado, I'm going to get in there, get nasty real quick, and hopefully pop this guy free and not break anything. Well, I'm happy to report that is a firm and decisive no. Even with the big 1 1/16 and the 22 on there, counter torquing, literally wedged right up underneath here with all the force I can muster in my upper body, did not even attempt to come loose. So we are definitely going to need to pull the oil cooler in order to get that line off. Unless we get really, really lucky and months of soaking does something. But I think we're just looking at some dissimilar metal corrosion, because it looks like these nipples are actually, these might even be aluminum. So we are going to go move this guy back to the side of the house. Also, the PB blaster just melted that Gorilla tape, so that's not going to work. So I'm going to try and make something out of aluminum foil or something, or maybe some foil duct tape, and then pinch it back on itself or something like that. But maybe not. We'll just leave it as is. And we are going to marinate for months on end now, and hope and pray. Alright, there's been a week of marination, and we're going to give one more solid attempt at taking off this oil cooler line, and if that doesn't work, I'm just going to keep doing this for like another 2 weeks, because I got shit every weekend for like the next 3 months. And another thing that I just realized that might make pulling the oil cooler off a little bit more palatable is something I can do in a multi-stage, multi-week process is I realized I don't have to drain all the oil. I just have to drain the oil cooler, the lines, and the oil filter housing. So I can just pop the oil filter housing open, pull the oil filter out, and if I can get this bottom line off, drain it all out. And then I can just pour back in everything I drain out, as long as I can keep it clean. And if not, I got 2 quarts of Lucas that I was planning to put in this thing. But I kind of didn't want to, just dump a bunch of Lucas in there and just go to like a, 30-60 weight from a 10 to B40. But if I just need another quart, then just chuck a quart of Lucas back in there and call it a day. So I think that's what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and crack that boy loose. And if it comes free, great. And then maybe if I got time today, which I don't think I'm going to, we'll drain out the oil cooler and the oil filter housing and just throw some chocks back there, leave her up on the ramps, and I can do this in my sweet leisure time, which I don't have. But I don't think I have to drain the entire crankcase. Hopefully there's no kind of weird siphon action that happens and it does it without my consent. But I think I can probably leave, at least 6 out of the, 7.5 quarts in this thing. Maybe 5. But, not drain the whole thing down, catch most of the oil. If I can get that lower oil cooler line off, or if I just decide to cut it, I can just let the whole oil cooler and the whole oil filter housing drain out into a catch pan. And then I can just throw the, drain pan back under it after that's all finally drained. Put a cap on that, save it, and dump that back in the engine. So I'm going to attempt to monkey on this thing one more time. I've got her up on ramps this go round so that I have a little bit more leverage, and we'll see if we make any progress or if we ruin things horribly. Well, never have I had any better leverage, and never have I had any less of a result. So it is not moving at all, not even a skosh. And I mean, I'm putting close to somewhere between 80 and 100 foot-pounds on that thing with a, on the end of a like 16-inch wrench, and it is just, it's twisting the whole radiator and frame and everything, and that is not coming off. So I think we are going to have to cut this thing regrettably and pull the whole oil cooler out. So we will do that at a later date, but not right now. Alright, while I wait for time, initiative, and it to not be raining every single night, I'm working on a little side project here with old Mossy that hopefully can distract me and still make a little bit of progress. I'm making a cover for the armrest because this thing is crusty, just like the back seat is. It doesn't look all that bad, but it's you put pressure on it, it starts going. So I just want something to go over top of it, give it that same sort of murder machine aesthetic. And what I found is I stole a pair of pants from my dad because he's got fatter legs than I do, and all I've really done is just take the hem that was there, fold it, or cut the hem off, fold it in, hem it up on the inside, fold it over internally, and just point her up a little bit, and then cut this to about 20 inches, and then just peel it back like that, and that just swoops on over there. And I'm gonna get this all fitted up, and then I'm gonna stick some Velcro here on the back, and I can just Velcro that over the top of it, and call it good to go. I might stick a little bit of foam padding in there or something, just on top, just to, take some of the pressure off of this old leather. And I was thinking, this was a pair of cargo pants, and I was hoping I could keep the pocket right here in the middle on one of the legs. And so when I folded it up, I had a pocket, but the pocket was oriented the wrong way, and it was on the middle of the hem, so it just didn't work out. Might still do something like that, but probably not. Anyway, so let me fit this guy on there and see if it's fit correctly, and then we'll go hem it up, tighten it up, sew on some Velcro, and have an armrest cover. Hey, that ain't too half shabby. No, it is. It's 100% shabby, but at least it fits quasi decently. So I just need to relieve that hem back to here, and then probably trim these guys a fair, maybe take an inch off of both ends of that, sew some Velcro on, and call that job done. Well, after several hours of sewing, we have this thing. It does not match color-wise, but it matches aesthetically with the rest of the car. And yeah, just have some Velcro back here that just sticks her together. And yeah, it was better than putting my elbow through some crunchy leather. I might slip like a little piece of foam padding or something in here. I don't know, just to take up some of this slop, but for now, it's much better than it was, but sorta. Alright, well, on another tangent, a homie of mine became the store manager of an Ace Hardware out of state, and he wanted a challenge, so I sent him some blanks in the original key, and he's got me 5 key blanks cut. From what he showed me, one of them is really nice, one of them is pretty good, and the other one's maybe a little sad. So we're gonna try them all, and we're gonna see what kind of doors they open, whether they do the trunk, which is the real test, and whether or not they'll fit the glove box. Probably, but we'll see. So let's give them a shot. All right, key number 1. That's not a good sign, Corey. Key number 2. Also a very sad face. Key number 3, which is the big sad. Oh God, about ate it. Okie dokie. Key number 4. Nothing. Stay. And lastly, key number 5. Oh, we're all a big sad. Let me try the original key, just to make sure my lock didn't suddenly break. No. Original key still works. Alright, well, after some fooling, I have managed to just kind of muscle my way into getting key 5 to work sometimes. And work on the glove box, it'll work in the ignition, it'll work on that door pretty well. It's kind of tight. It'll work on that one with some effort. Have not gotten it to work on the trunk, which is the big thing. But, you know, at the very least, it'll get me, you know, back in the car. So, yeah, struck out. So from that, what I've really learned is not that my friend sucks at cutting keys, but that key copiers just will not cut this blank, because that is now 3 hardware stores? 4 hardware stores? 3 hardware stores that have not been able to duplicate this key and get it to work in the trunk. The first time I got them cut at Lowe's, they worked in the doors, but they wouldn't work in the trunk. And I had to cut one by hand to get it to work, 2 by hand to get them to work. So yeah, that's interesting. May have to take these to an actual locksmith, which I'm not going to do. I'm just going to cut more by hand. But anywho, yeah, weird. Well, after discussing things with the homeboy and mulling it over and comparing my hand cut key to these blanks he sent, I have entered a drunken manic state, as I am off to do occasionally, about twice a year. So I'm out here doing what every locksmith would recommend when you have keys that don't work, and that's jam them in the lock and just turn them really hard. And I'm happy to report that they have actually self-clearanced. I don't know how well this is going to come out on camera, but where's a good example? I think number 2 was the best. There we go. Those little lines down in there, those shiny spots that are on one side and not on the other side. That is some good old-fashioned self-clearancing. So these 3 keys work in all 5 locks. All of them. Glove box, ignition, both doors, and the trunk even. And that's because they're actually just a skosh fat. And if you just jam them in here and turn them really hard, they work. So they absolutely would not work before. Number 5 would work in the doors. But yeah, they all work in the trunk now. So it just took a lot of angry screaming. 5 actually works really nice now. And if we come over here, this is the one that I worked on, so it's not, you know, indicative. 5 actually works great. However, leave 5 here. Oh, and 3 and 4, they're just a real big sad. There's no hope for them. But if we come over here, we take 2 and 1, and we just fucking turn these fuckers really goddamn hard, they work. They just self-clearance. That's the upside of having these brass blanks, is you could just fucking manhandle them like that, you know, and then they work until they don't. There we are. Great. God Lord, that hurts to do. Literally, my hand hurts. There we are. So 1 and 2 are not the one you give to your mom when you tell her to move the piece of shit out of your yard when you're stuck underneath it, dying and suffocating. But 5 is definitely the one that you give to emergency services to get this rotten hunk of garbage off of your lifeless corpse. Unless it decides not to fucking work. There we are. Great. Progress. Thanks, Corey. Alrighty, it's finally Saturday. I am sacked out from shoveling compost all day yesterday and hungover from drinking that bottle of gin yesterday. And I'm probably dying of some sort of flesh-rotting spider bite, but that's besides the point. We're going to do our damnedest to get this line swapped today. So my current plan is I'm going to take that vacuum line off so I don't break it again. Come in here, take both of those brackets off, holding those lines down, get those out of there, loosen up all 3 of these flare nuts that are being cooperative, and then make one more go at getting that bottom line off. And when it doesn't come off, we're going to pull that hose fitting off of there, loosen up both of these, or take off both of these bolts on the oil cooler, and I'm going to come in here with a set of bolt cutters, and I'm just going to snip that metal part of the line off so that I don't put metal shavings in there. And that should also staunch it, and that'll give me some time to get in there with the catch pan in this gin bottle, catch all the oil that comes out of there, and if I can get it all into this gin bottle, I can reuse it. I don't have to actually, you know, waste any more oil. But we're going to throw Lucas in there, probably at least half a bottle, because we're already down half a quart. We'll just see how that does. But that is the current plan. So we are going to go after that right now, and hopefully we'll make some damn progress. Well, after about 3 hours of fucking grunting and groaning, we have the oil cooler out and the new oil cooler line in. And that was a fucking bear. Good Lord. Alright, so let me run through the quick tips for you. Just leave the oil cooler in until you're ready to do everything else. Don't bother with it. Crack this upper line up here. Just to give it, you know, back that flare nut off about 5 turns. Then get down in here, crack both of those free, take the vacuum line out so you don't break it, disconnect it up there first. Then what I did was I came down there, and just where it started to turn, I just cut that fucker in half with a big pair of bolt cutters, and that pinched off both sides just enough so it was just a slow, not a slow drip, but a slow stream. Then I came back in with bolt cutters and some channel locks, and I just honked on the end of it and just opened it up just so it would flow a little better. And cracking that line up there, well, you may want to wait to do that, but when you crack that, that releases some of the air, and so that'll allow that to drain all out. And then just let that sit for about 15 minutes while you contemplate whether or not you just made a mistake. And then once that slows down to a drip, then take this line off all the way. And then you can come down here, take both of those lines off. I would recommend taking both of those out. That one down in there has to come out all the way. It's got like a little dog leg bend that hooks into a little bracket down in there that holds it on. So when you take that out, you can just pull the whole thing out. This one you can actually take the bolt out almost all the way and then put it back in about 3 turns. You can just turn it 90 degrees and leave it there. That's what I did. Or you can just pull it out. It's not a problem. It comes in and out pretty easily. Then the real pain in the ass is getting that old line out. What you have to do is kind of, well, one, you have to take those lines off. I would take the top one off first, let that, you know, percolate. You don't have to pull that upper line out. You just have to kind of move it out of the way. I put a zip tie down there that I still got to cut off, just to keep flare nut from going down into oblivion. May want to do the same with the bottom, but it doesn't really matter since you're throwing it out. And, ooh, that's greasy. I'm fucking greasy. Then, take the top line off. Just get it out of the way, take the bottom line off, sort of turn that 90 degrees, push it down there, and let that line drain out of oil. Then I would recommend coming in here and taking the oil cooler out, and that gives you room to slide these forward and aft. It gives you a lot more room to work.
May just be good to do that if you're doing this at all anyway, even if your line isn't stuck. Then you have to go in there, take both 8mm motor mount bolts out, put a jack underneath the oil pan, put a board on it, lift the engine up as far as the engine will go, take that plate, move it out of the way, the guard plate on top of your motor mount, and then you have to snake it out like this, and there is not a way for me to describe it, but it is a fucking nightmare. And I mean, you need every millimeter you can get out of that jack lifting this engine up too. It is a pain in the ass. Once you get that back out, then you have to do the thing in reverse, except with gravity against you, and it's also a fucking nightmare. And then you get it back in there, and then you gotta tighten those fittings down in there, and that's a fucking nightmare, especially the bottom one. And you have to put 2 wrenches in there and hold it counter torque against them, or you'll turn that steel nipple inside the aluminum engine housing and turn that in, and it'll split the threads and crack the aluminum housing. So don't do that. It's not fun, but I did do it. It's not impossible. It's just really, really fucking annoying. So, one other thing before I show you the oil cooler, I'm doing an oil analysis with Blackstone Laboratories. Look them up. Oil analysis. Make sure you look up Blackstone Laboratories and not Blackstone Labs, because Blackstone Labs sells boner pills and Blackstone Laboratories sells boner killers when you send in an oil sample and find out your engine's gonna fucking brick. But anyway, you can learn a ton of shit from that, because they basically do a mass spectrum. I can't say that word. Mass spectronomy, pop. It's up here on the screen. They shoot lasers at the thing, and it tells them all the elements that are in your oil, and from that they can tell you how much additive you have left, whether you have a coolant leak, whether you get sand in there, whether or not you've got fuel in your oil, whether or not your oil filter is working, if you're sucking in shit and grime from somewhere like that. I can tell you if you've got bearing wear, excessive bearing wear, whether cams are wearing or shit like that, you got cylinders or ring wear, that sort of stuff. It's fantastic. $30, and I mean it tells you what would cost you like a whole weekend and probably several $100s in gaskets, pulling an engine out, and or at least pulling the bottom end and inspecting bearings and that sort of shit. So I'm gonna do that. May not tell me anything, because one, the engine sat for 16 years and this oil's only been in there for about 300 miles, but it's also been in there for about 2 years. So it's going to be a weird report. They're going to have to send that to one of their top analysts or something. I may have to call them and do the research, but we're going to send one of those in. We're going to see whether or not we have anything glaring going on in the engine that I'm otherwise not aware of, like head gasket leaks. But anyway, here's this guy. And my plan is, with this on the bench, I'm just going to get in here with the 2 wrenches and see if I can do anything up here, not underneath the car, and see if that'll come free. If it does, great. Then we just throw it back, take that off, throw it back in there, and we're good to go. If not, I'm going to take a hacksaw, try and hold this thing upside down so I don't get metal shavings in there, cut this off right there, and then I'm going to take my 1/16, wherever it went, this guy, oil filter housing thing, I just have a big fucking 27mm. Cool, even better. We're just gonna take this bad boy and just plop her on there and grab the China torque. Oh, that's gonna be great to reorganize. Bust the China torque out and just fucking send it with a wrench on there and see if something happens. We may go with just the impact driver up there and just see if that's enough to jiggle it free, and then go up to the China torque, because I'm really worried about breaking this fucking oil cooler, because I do not have an easy way to get one. There is an OM617 1985 300 SD in a local scrapyard that hopefully has an oil cooler that I can steal, but it's even more rusted out than this fucking pig, so I don't think that line will come off either, but at least it gives me a second shot at this bullshit. So we'll fucking see. Alright, well, I trimmed that off. I tried using a 7/8 and the 1/16, because the 7/8 is thicker, so I could get more meat on there, and that just started rounding off the aluminum down there, so I stopped. Then we went over to just the regular impact driver and put that adapter in there and ran it, and smoke started coming out. Little bits of metal started shooting out inside of it and hitting me in the mouth, so we're done with that. Now we're moving on to the China torque, and I'm really, really, really hoping this does not fucking like twist some shit off or do something really radical or give me our like instant nerve damage. So we'll see. Pray for me. Well, that worked with not a lot of actual effort. It only took maybe like 5 seconds of ugga-dugging, and it came right off. But it took some of the threads with it. So yeah, that's interesting, and hopefully does not make my life a living hell going forward. I guess I could always just jam some JB Weld on there and call it a day and hope it doesn't get sucked into the oil filter. Well, hope it gets sucked in the oil filter, not into, you know, the bearings. Whew, look at all that fucking dirt. I'm going to go... I wasn't going to wash this, but I don't want to wash it because I might actually get... Oh, look at all that oil. Nice. Anywho, I'm going to throw this back in the car, and hopefully I can actually get that flare nut down to the bottom, and I didn't just, like, ruin everything forever. That would suck. Okie dokie. Well, everything's hooked up. It didn't seem to break. It's not leaking any oil. Everything else is all good to go. So I'm going to assume it's fine. Just drained out all the oil. And using my Seagram's gauge, it looks like we're a little bit... somewhere around 1.5 quarts. And we probably lost a quart. And the thing holds like 7 3/4 quarts. And I dumped 8 in it. So yeah, we're probably down 1.5 from nominal. Still in the safe zone on the dipstick. But again, I think everything in the oil filter housing... as well as the oil coolers out. So I am just going to dump in one of these. I don't know if I should pull like the oil filter and dump it in there, but I mean, normally when you remove the oil filter, that whole housing empties out, so I think I'm good to just dump it on the valve train. I mean, the whole engine's already primed and everything. It's basically like we did an oil change, except this whole oil cooler's empty. I'm just gonna quickly look up to see if there's like any sort of like pre-oiling thing I'm supposed to do if I lose everything in the oil cooler, but I'm pretty sure that this doesn't open. This has like a valve in there that doesn't open till a certain temperature, so I think we're good. So I'll look that up real quick, and then I'm going to dump that bottle in somewhere, push this thing off the ramps, check the oil level, make sure everything is Gucci, and just fucking send it. And friend just texted me, says that they're coming my way to go look at some bugs down on the island, so I might just fire her up, run her on down to the island, and, well, run around, you know, the end of my road and back, come back, park it, see if it's, you know, gushing oil everywhere. Then, if it ain't, drive it down the island, and we'll just take our first drive somewhere other than to get gas. Maybe. We'll see. No promises. All right, I can't find anything that says I need to do anything special, so I'm just going to dump a quart of the goop right down into here. And this should probably put us somewhere in the neighborhood of a 1545. We have 10 to be 40 in here right now. And 2 of these is what's recommended for this amount of oil in this crankcase, which I assume would put us near a 20W50. So this is either putting us near a 20W50 or 1545. I'd say probably 1545. And all Lucas really is a viscosity modifier. It doesn't really add anything else. It might have some additives in it. But that's all you're doing. You're just making the oil thicker. There's nothing special or miraculous about it. So when you have a really, really clapped out engine, you run 20W50 in it, and you dump a couple bottles of this in it, you know, you're running like something near like a 30W60 or something like that. And that's what helps you out, increases your oil pressure. And we haven't had any oil pressure issues with this thing other than at idle it's around like 20 PSI when the thing is screaming hot. Which ain't bad by any means. Not the best, but it ain't bad. And yeah, I'm just going to let that sit in there and percolate for a little bit. Drinky, drinky. Another 1.5 quart of delicious black diesel for future Tom and however many eons whenever I get to this. Alright, dipstick says we're about where we were before. Crankcase is probably a little over full, but you know, oil filter housing and oil cooler empty, so we'll get over it for now. Guess let's just throw some keys in it and see if we get instantaneous rod knock. Yeah, exciting. Oh, come on. Come on. There we go. Whew. Scary there for a second. But we got pressure. Well, let me just make sure nothing's spewing everywhere. Well, nothing yet. She seems a little sluggish. But I don't see any oil coming out anywhere. I don't really know if I like that Lucas or not. But let's roll the windows down. Well, we should probably put this down too. All right, let's go run her up to the height of the road and back, and see if we suddenly lose oil pressure and need to kill it, or if we're Gucci now. All right, just coming back. Drove to one end of the road and back, and then the other end of the road and back. Temperature is creeping above 80. It's not super hot today, but it's hot. It's like low 90s. Oil pressure is staying up at about 1.5 bar, which even just sitting idle at this temp, which is pretty good. The Lucas didn't have as much effect as I thought it would, but that's like what, 25 psi, so that's still great for a hot idle, especially considering I'm running 10W40. And yeah, all that's really left to do is just pull her up on the slab onto a nice clean spot and let her sit. And it's about to rain, so roll up all the windows and just pop her right about there, put her into park, and see, we're sitting good on oil pressure, although that gauge might be sticking, but you know, we're hovering close to 30 now, 27, something like that psi, nice and hot. So yeah, now the real test is, does the vacuum thing I fixed work? Oh wait, I gotta roll up all these windows first. Hold up, 1 second. All right, does the vacuum shut off work again? No, fuck. Well, that'll do it. All right, well, real quick, I just came in here and I used some 3/16 gas fuel line for the wrong thing again. And I just jammed a little barb down in there, trimmed this back to the next notch, and we're gonna fire up the car real quick and run around the yard, coming back, and see if she cuts off. All right, oil pressure's staying good. She's still hot. I haven't gone anywhere. Just figured I'd fire it up and see if it can make some vacuum, and we'll see if it shuts off. Hey! All right, problem solved. And best part, no oil drips, nothing. That's the great thing about this car. Other than that recent problem, it doesn't drip anything. Not a lick of any fluid anymore, which is strange because it really should be leaking everything, but it's not. So yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, it's raining where I was planning to go, so my friend is no longer coming this way, and it's probably gonna rain here any minute now, and I still gotta shovel all that shit. So yeah, we're gonna do our first drive a little bit later, but for you it's gonna be right now probably, unless something else breaks between now and then. Gwyneth Paltrow might be a dirty hippie, but she at least knows how to make a decent hand cleaner. Also, I wasn't lying about the flesh-eating spider bite. But anyway, real quick before we pack everything up, I'm going to check dipstick and just see how overfull we are now that we've got it up to temp, run it around, and filled up the oil cooler. So hopefully we're right on the money. And bam, right where we want to be, just a skosh underneath full. Perfect. Literally could not be more perfect. So yeah, we were probably a good quart, 3/4 of a quart over full. So we're now back down to perfect. All right, today is the day again. Got the GoPro all set up, and we're going to hop in this bad boy right here, and we're gonna go about 50 miles that way, or until the wheels fall off, whichever happens first. And hopefully, one, it won't blow up. Two, we'll get to go somewhere, and I can, make the most of a Sunday afternoon. And three, I might be able to, get a decent MPG calculation, because on the way back, I plan on stopping at the gas station and filling her back up with diesel. And I want to see something in the 20s. That would be really nice. So, without any further ado, let me fire up this GoPro, head out on the road, and enjoy the time lapse.
All right, well, we made it somewhere. We are in Bear Island, WMA, right here in the heart of the Ace Basin, South Carolina. Bear Island is a special place in the Ace Basin, and the Ace Basin is probably the most special place in South Carolina. And yeah, car made it, no troubles. The temp has been sitting between 75 and 85 C the entire time. You know, pretty much bang on 80, 81 the entire way. Oil pressure has not dropped below about 28 PSI, even at idle. Smoking hot. Wheels haven't fallen off. Had one little panic attack where the balancing beads weren't quite working for a second. Thought I'd lost a wheel bearing, but went right back to just fine. Nothing dripping out of it. Now, we need to get back. And I think we're probably about 40% of the way through the trip. I was hoping the driving tour was gonna be open, but it's not. It's rained a shit ton, so I'm kind of glad because I probably would've got stuck. And I don't get service out here. But we're gonna go finish cruising through Bear Island, go on down to Bennett's Point, swing on past the Harriet Tubman, just cross over into Beaufort County, go from one end of the Ace to the other. So without further ado, let's get back to it. Just pulled up to the pump. Let's see how she did on fuel. Not too bad. Well, a little bit too much spirited driving. Spilled some diesel. Ain't gonna lose any sleep. And there we are. We're back, safe and sound. GoPro stopped several miles ago. Ran out of card space, but the Mercedes is back. It did not break, mostly. The only thing that broke is, for whatever reason, now the driver's side window doesn't go all the way up, but I can pull it 99% of the way up. So hopefully I just popped a fuse and the regulator didn't explode, but we'll see.
Yep, just a sad fuse. It was one of those crusty old aluminum ones that came with the car, so it just oxidized out and disintegrated. Look at all that blow by. Let's see, we burn oil? Nope, right where I want it. Nice. But other than that, not a damn issue the whole way. She does not like going above 55. There's a massive driveline wobble. It's either a front end wobble or a driveline wobble. I'm just going to assume that it needs new flex discs on the drive shaft and properly balanced wheels, and probably tires that aren't 6 years old and mostly dry rotten, and probably the 2 inches of play in the steering wheel taken out of it. So we'll just suss those out at a later date. But for now, she's good to go. And if my napkin math works out, we drove about 135 miles and I put just a hair under 4 2/3 of a gallon in it. And that's damn near 30 miles a gallon, which is obscene. That's like a full 10 more than my Jeep. That's fucking nearly double the damn truck. So that's awesome. Not actually going to save me any money because diesel is 50% more than gas right now, so it would be a net wash between this and the Jeep. This doesn't have AC, so clear winter. And yeah, this is the end of season 1. So the Mercedes is back on the road. It's drivable. I feel totally comfortable taking this thing to work. And yeah, it's a car now. Finally, after 2 years of fucking work. 2 years and some change. I first started tinkering with this thing in March of 2020. Really didn't actually start doing anything till August. It is now tail end August 2022. So it's been, we'll just say it's been a hair over 2 years. But she's back on the road, reliable as ever. And yeah, if you like what I'm doing here, go down there, like the video. If you want to see the rest of the series, this is the season finale for season 1. But there's still plenty to be done with this thing. I still need to clear coat it. I may just actually wax the thing first and just see how that goes, but I think eventually I'm going to clear coat it, and then I'm going to put a ceramic coat on this thing. I need to work on the air conditioner. Need to check to see if the compressor works, and if it doesn't, swap out the compressor and then convert this whole thing over to R134A so I don't die. I got a year to do that. I'm coming off the tail end of the hottest part of the year, so it's all uphill from here. And yeah, I need to do the flex joints on the drive shaft and a couple other handful of things. And yeah, if you want to see that, smash the big red button. And till next time, Tom out. I'm going to go clean up diesel out the trunk now.